Well, good day, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful vidcast. My name is Mark Johnston, your host for Vid Media and Vid Conferences, and we have a great tour today for you with a remarkable human who's rising through the ranks of fame in the culinary and cannabis sector, one chef, Travis Petersen. Travis, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me.
Really happy to have you, a fellow Canadian who's also now an American moving into the space of both sides of the border and internationally. I've had the great pleasure, Travis, of working with you on some development and really understanding your deep passion for the world of cannabis and haute cuisine and helping people understand the beauty of cannabis oil. As some people have said, almost like the new truffle oil in the cuisine world. So I'd love to explore some of that with you at this point. But let's start with a bit of background on who Travis is, because you've obviously done a great deal of work becoming a chef to begin with, and then exploring this wonderful sector of cannabis. I know you have a cookbook coming out, another tour in the works. You'll be overseas, international globetrotter when it comes to helping people understand the beauty of cannabis in cuisine. So tell me a little bit, Travis, about your passion, how you've come to be where you are today.
Yeah, I kind of have taken the path less traveled, or even maybe some paths that weren't even there. I became a chef when I was 31 years old, and the whole opportunity came about kind of half jokingly applying for a TV show called Masterchef. I actually used to work in the oil and gas industry. I was a business development manager for a British oil company, and sort of sales and marketing. That was sort of my skill set. My passion was cooking. I loved going home and cooking every night from 5 to 6. Turn the phone off, maybe consume a little bit of cannabis, pour a glass of wine, turn the news on, and that was kind of my little Zen hour. I loved cooking for people, and MasterChef surprisingly opened a door that may have not been there. With the recession in the oil and gas industry in 2015, right after filming MasterChef, I was unfortunately laid off, but that was the push I needed to pursue this passion of mine of cooking. Fast forward 3 years, Canada's legalizing cannabis in 2018, and I do my first cannabis pop-up, and to date have cooked for almost 8,000 people their first infused dining experience. So that very first cannabis dinner I did, I was still buying into stigmas and preconceived notions of what I thought edibles were. I did not want to be called a cannabis chef. But very quickly I found that, this was the cuisine I was meant to be cooking and meant to be doing.
Beautiful, Travis. Well, it's been a great pleasure knowing you in the months that we've been walking together in other ventures, but I'm really excited to bring you to an audience under the Vid banner because our job is to bring investors and companies together, Travis. That's what we do at Vid Media and Vid Conferences, whether it's an in-person conference or digital virtual investor days. And I know that the sector of cannabis obviously has gone through, no pun intended, quite a growth journey. And obviously regulations and perceptions and misconceptions of the world of cannabis are kind of a key component to the industry itself. You've found a place for yourself in the industry where you've brought food and cannabis together, which is such a unique niche, and it's such an impressive thing to see you in action. I've seen many of your moments, including in person, where you really educate an audience at a table of the concept of how cannabis oil infuses with great food and what that experience, that journey is like. And I think slowly but surely eyes are opening around the world, depending on your jurisdiction, your territory. Regulations are different from place to place, but I know you have a project in the works and a documentary in pre-production as well, at least currently titled Chef on a Mission. Do you want to tell me a bit about your role there?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that we saw in Canada as being the first country with legalized recreational use of cannabis was that as soon as that word changed from illegal to legal, there was a huge new demographic of people wanting to come and try cannabis. I mentioned, I've had about 8,000 people attend my dinners. Well, 700 of them have been first-time cannabis users. We've collected all that data. So, as soon as now there's this new thing out there, this forbidden substance that now is legal, people are more willing to try it, right? And there's a bit of a cool factor to it. So they are kind of drawn to it. And, when we introduce it in a setting that they're already comfortable with, that they're already familiar with, it helps ease those nerves a little bit, right? So, there is still heavy regulation. We're not at the point where we're seeing cannabis in restaurants, but what we're trying to do with these dinners is really demonstrate that chefs can do this. We're perfectionists. Whether we're making a cheeseburger or whether we're cooking a 6-course infused elevated dinner, we want this to be perfect. So part of this documentary, is going to be kind of focusing on some of the stigmas, some of the benefits, and some of the legal hurdles out there for infused dining. We're going to head to a culinary mecca over in Europe, visit 6 countries, focus on 6 different topics, and then come back, take all this knowledge, and cook a beautiful dinner for some talented North American chefs. So, we've seen people who are going to come into cannabis. Combustion isn't really the first route, our first choice, right? Picking up a habit of smoking is not going to be encouraged. It's not healthy. Ingesting orally is going to be a safer, more inviting way for people. And I'm having fun doing it.
I can see that in the footage that's been out there. I mean, you've had media from around the world, Travis, come to you across the ocean to capture moments with you in the US and Canada. And of course, you'll be heading over to Europe to teach some of Europe's top chefs on how to work with this remarkable ingredient, cannabis oil. But tell me a little bit about the type of people you've had at your table, because I'm going to make a wild guess here, maybe an educated guess, that you have quite a cross section. People are not just coming to your events, your private dinners, to experience cannabis, period. It's the whole journey. So tell me a bit about those that have been at your table.
Yeah. And, one of the things I can sort of touch on with that point, again, we kept all the data of everyone who was attending my dinners, because I wanted to know, my average age is 39. 57% of my guests have been female. And again, we had about 700 guests. So we're saying about 6% of our guests have been first-time cannabis users, which was really surprising. Really what sold me on, this actually being a thing was one of the first dinners I did. We sold tickets in Canada for people to come attend. You could buy 1 ticket, tables, we'd seat 12 people. So you could buy 2, whatever you wanted. So more times than not, you'd have 6 couples come in. Strangers, nothing, they didn't know who they were, but they would all sit down. And this one table that sat together, spread out in age. We had a groups, kids who were 20 years old. We had a 65-year-old widower who had come by herself. A very wealthy, quiet Asian couple. We had a couple in their 40s. And I had reached out to my staff and said, we need to engage this table. We need to talk with them, because I don't think they're going to have a lot to talk about. This table didn't need us. And standing in the kitchen, listening to their conversation, I had goosebumps. And it was that moment that I realized that there's something actually here. There's something with cannabis that's about sharing. It's bringing people together. And I was having just a lot of fun with it. But I'll never forget that table that sat down to finish the night off. They all decided, hey, let's go grab a drink somewhere. So when the dinner was over, this group of odds and misfits, all went out together, and it just, put a big smile on my face. And I always think about that. And I see it time and time again. It's everyone from all ages, all demographics. People are interested in this.
Beautiful, Travis. Well, I'll say this, at VID Media and VID conferences, our role is to bring people together. You're doing the same thing in your journey with the beauty of cannabis oil and cuisine, to bring people to a table, to interact, to engage with each other, and to have it at an elevated experience, from my understanding of what it is that you offer to your guests on a regular basis. And the fact that the media has really caught notice of what you're doing, your trajectory. You have remarkable industry alliances, relationships, support, sponsors. I know that you've worked deeply hard in the area of the cannabis sector, whether it's your cookbook that's coming out, the tour. You have what I'll call a residency now, I understand, in Las Vegas, which is really up and coming and expanding its openness to cannabis consumption consumption lounges being created, if I understand correctly. So you're right in the thick of this, Travis. You've really hit a nerve with the market, it sounds like, and helping to educate and elevate people when it comes to the concept of cannabis use, especially when it comes to that beautiful fusion with cuisine and that experience. So let's talk a little bit about kind of where you're going, Travis. I know that you've already done a great deal of work building your foundation, expanding your tribe of allies that really believe in your vision, what you're doing for the industry. Over the next year to two, what's the longer vision for Chef Travis Petersen?
Well, with the Nomad Cook, all along was creating a culinary cannabis brand. So what I wanted to do first was create brand awareness, both within the culinary industry and the cannabis industry, which we've been able to achieve since really focusing solely and primarily on the cannabis. April 20th, 2018, that's all I've done since then, cannabis focus. So I'm hoping here in the next, 12 to 24 months, the Nomad Cook culinary products will start making their way into stores. My goal is I want to support the culinary industry. I want education out there to help train and develop this next generation of chefs. I want chefs to be able to do this dinner in a legal setting in the restaurants. We're still a long ways away from there, but that'll be a day that's great. I have really come at a perfect time and storm because, the pandemic has really shaken up the culinary and restaurant industry. And we are seeing more and more people being able to subcontract their own services, utilize apps, travel around. The employee per se now has the power. And a lot of these chefs are trying to find, hey, how do I do this? I was fortunate enough because I came through Masterchef, because I didn't come up through a restaurant system and all I knew was my sales and marketing background. All I've ever done is pop-ups and traveling around. So, when I first started on this path, for me, I thought it'd be really cool if I could travel to like Toronto and cook a dinner, once every couple months. Never did I think I would, be traveling to Las Vegas and Los Angeles and San Francisco and planning trips to Europe. It's all a little surreal.
Surreal and quite beautiful. Those of us that watch from the sidelines see someone like you, Chef, really rising through the ranks. And I believe humbly that it's because your passion at your core and you hone that passion and you build a dream around that passion. That authenticity, I think, is really what many people find their success with. The fact that you believe in a cause, you believe in a mission, and you're out there speaking to the world as an advocate, and you're doing it in a way that entertains and engages people at your table. So seeing some of the footage, which I know we'll include in this piece as well, that you really do touch people's minds and hearts when it comes to opening to the concept of cannabis and how that interacts in the world of cuisine. So really happy to have a bit of a look ahead with you, Chef. I know that we'll be watching very intensely on how your journey continues to unfold and the people that you bring along the way. For those that are really interested in the audience, and I know there'll be many, where do we find you? Where does an audience find Chef Travis Petersen?
Well, I have a website, thenomadcook.ca, soon to be .com. We are making the full transition in the American market down here. Mm-hmm. On social media, Instagram is probably to keep up to date with the most things that I'm doing, _Nomad Cook. I think those are really the kind of best ways to follow through. I'm traveling all around. I'm available to go and do private dinners, and I've got a pretty busy schedule, but yeah.
Beautiful. Chef, it's always a pleasure to connect with you. I just love your authentic feel that you really believe in what you're doing. And I think the world's catching up with you and keeping track of where Chef Travis Petersen is. And you could not have a better moniker than the Nomad Cook, brother. So I want to say thank you for your time. This is exactly why we do these vidcast sessions where people just get to know an interesting human being. And you've certainly delivered that in spades today. So all the way down there in Arizona, I wish you the very best and continued good journey. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Mark.